Noelle Federico is my business partner. She is also heads a variety of different companies, including Dreamstime, which is one of the largest stock photography companies in the country. She is also CFO of Nature's Youth, which is a nutritional supplement company as well. Only has about 7 or 8 jobs. So if you're wondering why the economy is doing badly, it's because Noelle has all the jobs. If she'd just share a few of them, we could turn the economy around a little bit. But among her many jobs is running our operations, both in terms of Gill University, the Gill Media Company, and of all our other pieces as well. And she's the one that really has put together the bulk of this notebook on branding, and she is somebody that has really focused a lot on marketing and branding and other success principle issues for a long time. And I'm going to let her kind of take you through this initial discussion of who's doing the right kind of branding and who you kind of think of when you think of company branding, and then we're going to kind of bring it down to more the personal brand that each of you and the folks that work for you have, because part of what we want to do is kind of throw that rock into the pond and have the ripples go out. What you learn in here is hopefully stuff you can transfer to the folks that work with you as well, to make sure that we're not only looking at the Beeman brand as a brand itself, but also how the individuals within the company have personal brands that help you move up through the company, but also how you relate to the individuals out there that you deal with as well. So Noelle, if you'll take it from there.
Tell me what brands stand out for you. Anybody? Throw something out there.
Harley.
Perfect. Anybody else?
What makes Harley stand out? What do they do that makes them a brand?
American made.
American made?
I always think it's somewhat of a fraternity. I mean, once you're in, you're kind of part of this bigger thing.
You're either Harley guy or you're not a Harley guy. Or you're either Harley girl or you're not a Harley girl. And really, Harley's not about the bikes, right? I mean, what they did was they did it really well. They created a community. They created a relationship with people. And when you buy a Harley, you get inducted into that culture. And so now, you know, you're a Harley owner, and they have a Harley owner group, and they do all this cool stuff, and, you know, so now you feel like you bought into something when you buy a Harley. So it's not just like going to the grocery store and buying some milk. When you've made that purchase, you feel like you've bought into something. And that's actually something I want you guys to think about, because when a customer comes to Beeman and they purchase a vehicle, we want them to feel like they're buying into something. We want them to feel like they're buying into the Beeman family, into the Beeman culture, and we want to make sure that we're creating that Beeman brand and that Beeman culture so that it is something Harley-ish for, you know, in Tennessee, where they're buying into a family, they're buying into a relationship, they're buying into being part of something. So that's a perfect example. Harley-Davidson is one of my favorite examples of brand.
I mean, remember when you used to go into Baskin-Robbins and you'd pull a number and they'd call number 23, or most places. You pull a number, you're a number. They write your name on the cup. That helps them remember your name. You know, you're Tom, you're Steve, you're Joe. They write your name on the cup. That brands you to the cup. I mean, just visually, your name is on that cup next to their logo. They've written your name down, so they're saying not number 23, you got your coffee. It's Steve, it's Tom, it's Bob, it's Doug. They make that name a part of who you are. And again, in your company, you can make that same connection by using the names of your customers as often as you can. We actually did an experiment, I guess it was last summer. We decided, I guess some of our staff had just gone through the Dale Carnegie course, and that whole use the name. The people love to hear their name. They'll pay attention. And we decided, as an experiment today, let's just, everybody we deal with, every waiter, every person we deal with, let's make a point of finding out their name, using their name, and talking to them. And it was amazing. I would encourage you to do this. Go through a day, really go through a lot of days if you can, where you literally seek out the name of the people that may be waiting on you, that you're dealing with at a store, a retail clerk, you know, waiting on you or taking care of you. Ask them their name, make just that little half extra step connection, and you will literally see them light up. You will literally see them gravitate to you, because that's not what's happening. We've become so high tech. We've become so inundated with information and technology that personal connection is missing. So the good news for a company that's trying to make that personal connection with your clients, to make that what your brand is, it's not going to take much to do, because nobody else is doing it. So just a little bit of writing the name on the cup, using the name, making a point, and I think, you know, the sales team and the service departments, I think, do a great job of it. You know, they get the name of the person, they're using the name, but just that little extra emphasis of really hammering that name, and do it in your personal experience. Next 24, 48 hours, everywhere you go, everybody you deal with as a waiter, retail clerks, anybody you deal with, ask them their name, find out just that little bit extra about them, and just watch how they literally will light up, and you will have a connection that we just bypass all the time because we don't take just that little smidgen of a step further towards making that personal connection.
How many, you guys almost have your favorite stuff that you use or do. What makes you gravitate towards that? I mean, what would make you drive, across town for a certain perfume or for a Nike shirt or, whatever it is that you love, whatever brands you love, you're probably pretty loyal to them. What creates that?
Style, the image.
What you think you will be if you have that, right? Like how you think you'll present yourself if you're wearing that, or you smell like that, or you drink that, or you watch that. Even television shows, right? Television shows create. American Idol created a brand for themselves. What else?
Consistency with the brands that I stay with. I know I'm getting the same thing every time.
Exactly. And that's important, right? So that, that is also important, that for being here at Beeman, that the service that's being provided or the relationship that's being extended is the same every time, no matter which one of you or whoever works underneath you that the customer interacts with, right? It should be the same, all the time. And I noticed in your pamphlet here that it says, every time that there's a concern, whatever one of you gets that, you own it, and then you follow it through until it's resolved. And so that's a great example of how to create lasting relationship with customers, because lots of times you'll call a store or you'll call a place and whoever answers the phone and they don't care. They don't care what your problem is. They just want to pass you off to the next person. So it's rare to find somebody that, you interact with on the phone and then they're going to go be the one who sees your concern through to the end. That's great that you have that in there, and that's an important piece of creating relationship with people. What else? What about you, ladies? What makes you go after your favorite brand, whatever that might be? Nail polish, jewelry, clothes, makeup, something.
Yeah.
TJ, great. That's a great brand, right? Because you're getting good stuff for cheap, right? That's great. My mom loves TJ Maxx. She's there all the time.
I think for them it's the search.
It's the bargain, it's the hunt.
But TJ Maxx represents good stuff for less. Good things, good name brands for less, lesser price. And so that in and of itself is a brand. I say in there, never make your brand cheap unless cheap is your brand. Like Walmart made that their brand. So that works for them. But lots of times a good brand will try to lower their price because they're going after, inexpensive or cheap, and it doesn't work for them. Because that's not why people are seeking them out. That's not what they do best. That's just something that they're trying to add on to gain more customers, and that's never a good idea.
Noelle also touched on the fact that everybody within the organization is responsible for that brand. I mean, I think we've all been to a restaurant at some point or another where you can't find your waiter or your waitress, and you try to flag down somebody else. And whether they say it, sometimes they will, but whether they say it or not, their attitude is, you're not my table. You're not my table. I'm not responsible for you. You really want to avoid that within an organization as well, because everybody at every level of the organization, it's all your tables. I mean, the sales guys have the most contact sometimes, it seems, with customers, but the parts department does too. The folks that are in accounting and bookkeeping that are making sure the numbers work, they do too. Barry certainly does when he's out there and people are already frustrated and upset and angry, and it's 108 degrees and their car won't start and there's smoke coming out of some part of the car. And if you have somebody that's got a bad day and they show up to deal with that problem, they're going to take a bad day and make it worse. Every one of you all is literally responsible for the brand every single day. And it's not just that it's what you create. This brand has been created over time. People that went before you created the brand. You're carrying it forward. And then there's going to be folks that come after you that have to carry that brand forward as well. Every single person with the contacts you have with customers is all a part of preserving and growing and protecting that brand. And you have to have that attitude of it's my table. Every table is my table. Somebody's there and they're saying, yeah, I'm here to see the parts department. I mean, the response isn't, well, I'm in sales. I'm in bookkeeping. That's not my issue. That's not my problem. It has to be that attitude of, let me help find the right person that can solve your problem, and I'm going to walk you through it. If you have that above and beyond attitude, that's what strengthens the brand of the personal connection.
Culture is an important discussion, an important distinction, and that's what makes brand even more important, because as you all know, there's plenty of media sources out there now. There's all kinds of people screaming for your attention with ads, you know, television, billboards, radio, and you can go on the internet and find out just about anything you need to know about anything. So that makes it a little bit more difficult, especially in your business, to be distinct, to be different, because you have lots of other car dealers that have lots of other, that have the same amount of media exposure that you do. So what makes you different? What makes you different is your culture. And Harley-Davidson created a culture. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Amazon's purchase of Zappos. Do you all know in the room what Zappos is? Zappos was a shoe store, an online shoe store, and they do sell some other things. And Jeff Bezos from Amazon just recently purchased, I think within the last year, they purchased Zappos. Now the reason that they did that is because Zappos created such an incredible culture that they were actually outselling Amazon in some non-footwear categories online. They were outselling them even though they were priced higher. So Zappos had stuff, skirts, pants, whatever, priced higher than the prices at Amazon, and they were outselling Amazon because of the customer service culture that they've created. So Jeff Bezos made a decision and purchased Zappos, and when he purchased Zappos, he decided to maintain and keep the culture of Zappos distinct and different and not mix it into the Amazon culture. So now, although they are owned by the same parent company, Zappos still operates with their own policies and procedures because he didn't want to upset that culture, but he's a smart man, he wanted to own it because they were doing better in business than he was in certain categories that were not footwear, when footwear is what Zappos is known for. That was their brand, was shoes. So that illustrates why culture is really important right now.
Think about how a lot of the car dealers do commercials that is not that kind of welcoming. It's not that authenticity. I mean, you know,
about my commercial I hate the most.
Well, first of all, you've always got them yelling at people. Hey, call us now. Come down to Crazy Joe's. We're going to put you in a car. You know, unless you've got a family that has a crazy drunk uncle that shows up at Thanksgiving, that's not really the family you're looking to be a part of. I mean, you know, somebody that's like yelling at you and screaming at you and bigger and boisterous than all. You want to deal with somebody that's treating you with respect and treating you like a family member would treat you at a good time, not kind of the crazy uncle. So those ads just don't fit if you're trying to make that connection. Noelle also writes in the branding book about how Starbucks did it. They used to take your office coffee. Now you take your office to get the coffee. I mean, again, they make that a place you want to be. Some of these ads for other car dealers don't make it a welcoming place. You walk in. I mean, the great facility you have down here, I mean, I noticed I was coming in, the fact that you kind of have a coffee bar set up. Not just, hey, if you want a cup of coffee, we'll go back and get you a cup of coffee. It is the inviting nature of having a coffee bar. It looks like a place that if you're going to have to hang out here, waiting for your car to be repaired, waiting for something to be done, it's got that familiar feel to it that is the right atmosphere. And that little touch of having the coffee set up like you're at a Starbucks, those little things make all the difference.